Well, many people have asked me this question during seminars and philosophical discussions. The first question which they have asked, I will read to you. Why are we here and where do we go? Well, we are here just like any rock piece is here, that mud is here, plants are here, the earth is here, everything is here, and we are also here. We are actually an inevitable product of the cosmic evolution. It has been proved scientifically that on a planet of Earth size, at a distance the planet is from the sun, life has to be formed. Living cells have to be formed. In an Earth, because there is plenty of water, elements, and in the presence of sun's energy and perhaps in the lightning, electricity, the chemical reactions always tend from simple to complex molecules, and eventually amino acids and proteins were formed, the basic building blocks of life. And the unicellular organism was just the next step. Later, through evolution, millions of beings, plants, animals, and then at last humans evolved. So we are here. Nobody can stop that. Nobody has made it. We are here, and where do we go? See, billions of people have come upon this earth before us. Where have they gone? They're all now, buried, and they are the topsoil. They have been manure to plants, to grass. They have been manure or edible things for the microscopic organisms. Billions have come and gone, and we also will go. We have got a very small time. This is all, happening in the cosmic laws of nature. Nobody can stop it. Nobody can control it. Things are going. We are also going. We are also living. So where do we go? We know that we will be dying, all of us. And after death, each cell of ours becomes food to microorganisms, or they become food to plants, grass, or they become the topsoil. That is where we go. Well, if we ask any deeper question like whether there is a soul and where that goes, these are all human's imagination. Because earlier man, when somebody died, there was not much difference between a corpse and a living human. So these early people, as they did not understand life phenomena or whatever that was happening, they thought something has passed from this corpse, and maybe they arrived at the concept of a soul, and later on stories were made where they will be living later. And earlier when people were buried, or very important guys were buried, they were buried with all paraphernalia so that they would be having a comfortable life later. But now we all know that once the brain stops functioning, once the vital organs stop functioning, everything is over. Our life is over. So that is the answer for that. Where do we go? We go into the universal energy. Whatever small little energy we have in us will be merging with the universal storehouse of energy, and we live eternally that way. And now the second question comes. It is also related to the first question. The second question is, which religion is true? Which path for us to follow? Well, there has been a number of religions in the world. Earlier, there was no religion. Man was a hunter gatherer. He was busy with going around collecting food and edible roots and fruits, and even he hunted animals. He was just living. His life itself was fully in danger. There were quicksands, poisonous snakes. There were wild beasts who were chasing him. So life was actually a threat to him. There was no time to think about anything, what is coming later, or whether there was God or something like that. For millenniums, for 200,000 years, Homo erectus has been here. Actually, Homo erectus, Java man, Peking man, and all were discovered much earlier. Later on, Neanderthals, they roamed from place to place. And then, they did not have any religion as we know it. But as humans began to settle down after the discovery of agriculture and also fire, what happens is people start thinking about nature phenomena which were quite mysterious to them. And then, those people started deifying them because they were unknown to them. These powers were very much beyond their, and let's say, comprehension. So they thought they were gods. So like that we find God in Surya. Surya is God. Indra, rain, thunder is God. Rain is God. Ocean is God. Earth is God. Akasha is God. Every phenomena that you find in nature is God, not only in Hinduism, in every, olden civilizations, we find the same in different names. Even Apollo Apollo is the god of Surya or god of sun, was a very powerful god in the European culture. And even in Southern American or Chinese civilizations, similar gods existed everywhere. So religions, is a necessity in order to have a relationship with God. Some of the gods were good gods because there are good nature phenomena, and some gods were very, let's say, very hostile, so they were dangerous gods. So good gods have to be worshipped, and dangerous gods had to be propitiated. So they began sacrifices to them. Earlier gods, they began to sing praises. So naturally, religion starts, various types of religions. With the discovery of agriculture around 12,000 years back, and when humans began to settle in society, that is when religion starts. Earlier, maybe there were animistic beliefs or something for some time, but if you go back 100,000 years back, there was nothing of that sort. Presumably, that is what I think. But then today we have all sort of polished, organized religions which make people obey their commandments, laws. They collect money, they are living posh life. There are so many religions. It is big business. And if you take which religion is good, well, there are so many religions which give different commandments, different ultimate purposes of life. For example, in, let's say, Buddhism and Jainism, there's no God. For them, God is not preparing any heaven or not going to punish them in hell. Their ultimate purpose is nirvana, a state where you don't feel joy or pain, you don't feel sorrow, you don't feel cold or hot. Without any sort of, emotional attachment to anything, and you are not at all bothered about what happens to you. That is an ultimate state, nirvana. In Hinduism, the path or religion always goes to the concept of cessation of birth and rebirth cycles. They believe that we will be reborn again, and the ultimate purpose is get away from that cycle and merge with the eternal, let's say, consciousness. Merging with the eternal consciousness seems to be very much, let's say, very much sensible, because every one of us, when we die, we merge with the eternal storehouse of energy, because energy is not destroyable. So we merge with the eternal energy. That energy or eternal energy or the entire cosmos can be God. So we merge with God. That way there is, something similar or something sensible. But in the case of, let's say, Islam has given, a heaven, promises a heaven full of, there is an ample supply of big busted women and liquor and, rivers flowing with honey. So, you know what people do? They slit the throats of their fellow humans, they machine gun others, or they immolate themselves by becoming suicide bombers. You know, they wrap around bombs all around their body and then just immolate so that they can immediately reach there and enjoy the plentiful supply of virgins and liquor. In the case of Christianity, they are offering a spiritual heaven, living with God, singing His praise eternally. Oh, that should be very boring, I think. You should also think like that. You know how, just imagine, souls there singing, going on, singing the eternal praises of the Almighty, eternally the same thing, hour after hour, day after day, century after century, millennium after millennium. Should be very boring to them. So there are different paths offered by different religions. So I do not know which one is true, because nobody who has died has come back. Nobody has come back in order to testify this is correct. Even though, you know, Jesus in the Bible said that I will come after a very little time before this generation passes. I will come in the heavens with glory in the presence of my angels, things like that. But he never did. Nobody has done. So we do not know. So in order to say which religion is good, it's a very tough question. It depends on what you like. If you like a particular religion, well, who am I to say you know to go after that? It's up to you. But when we look at it from another perspective, from a full perspective, comprehensive perspective, we understand that religions are all formed at certain times in certain geographical locations and influenced by the geography, the culture, everything there. Earliest religions are not here now. You know, the religions of, gods like Apollo or the Egyptian gods, there were so many, mythical gods. All of them were just destroyed when Christianity came up. Zoroastrianism was destroyed by Islam and Christianity. So many religions. All religions have been persecuted by others. Many of them disappeared, some of them remain. And those which remain now are main religions, you know, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, things like that. They have different paths, different commandments, different rituals, and nobody is to say which one is correct, which one is not correct. But all that we can say at the moment is these religions have, let's say, emerged in certain times, except Hinduism, which emerged, you know, millenniums back, the oldest. And there is no founder, there is no rigid philosophy. There is, everything is a way of life. That is the only difference which I find. Others are all, you know, having strict commandments. You follow this. If you don't, I will burn you in the eternal hell. Which God can say that for a temporal sin in the, in this transient life, I will roast your soul eternally in hell. Oh, that should be monstrous. Don't you think so? There's no meaning in that. Now, the next question which people ask is, which God is true? Well, which God is true? There have been so many gods. Earlier gods, if you look at the earlier gods, as I said, they were nature phenomena. Most of the nature phenomena that we find, which man did not understand at that time, became a god. Earlier times, you know, every tribe had a tribal, let's say, all father. This tribal all father became a tribal deity. That is how we find Yahweh. Yahweh was actually a Middle Eastern war and mountain deity. And then he migrated to the Palestine, group of gods under the name Ei, and he was given the charge of the Jewish kingdom. So he became the Jewish god, or in charge of Jews. But then, you know, he was very selfish. And then the prophets, who evolved later on, started telling that this God is, all powerful, this, that. So he became, a very, very big or very powerful God towards the Almighty, let's say, level. This happens, you know, along with the evolution of empires. Earlier, there were small kingdoms, and later on, empires, then huge empires. So in parallel with that, many of the gods, every single society, every single civilization had some sort of gods earlier. I mean, not from the time of their evolution of humans, but much later. Let's say with the beginning of agricultural society, gods also began to be prominent. So some of these gods, millions of gods have come. Even in Hinduism, there are so many. But then, in the course of time, some of these gods becomes more prominent at certain time. Some other gods become less prominent. So we find gods becoming almighty, just like this Yahweh, that Jewish tribal god, became an almighty god later, and now for Christians, he is an almighty god. So many almighty gods are there now. There was a god called Yaham Allah in the Meccan tribe, and with the coming of Muhammad, he became an almighty because Muhammad, let's say, transformed him into an almighty God. So, almighty God, Allah is there, Yahweh is there. You have the Hindu almighty God, Brahman, which is actually the cosmos, or cosmos is one with Brahman, which makes some sense to me, because if somebody tells me that this cosmos is God, it makes sense. But it is another matter whether it is a conscious being or whether he is interested in humans or not, which I do not believe, because I do not find any sort of evidence or any sort of experience to say that gods are interested in humans in any way. Humans are, always undergoing suffering, diseases, natural calamities, you name it. So all the time we find these sorts of gods have been, some of the gods have become very, very, very powerful or omniscient. So many omniscient gods are there. How can there be more than one Almighty? If there is more than one Almighty, that is impossible, because Almighty means one which contains everything. But now in the world there are so many Almighties. So the question which God is true is very funny to me. If there is a God, it can be only one God, because that God is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. He should contain everything. If there is a God beyond that God, then that is no God at all. So to the question which God is true, first of all, I do not know why there are gods. These gods have evolved on a particular time, for in a particular culture, influenced by certain, let's say, founders or prophets who shaped them in their own way. So we have no way to say which God is true. There were gods who were very, very horrendous, ugly. There were gods with human torso and birds or animal head. There were gods wearing skulls. There were gods having snakes in their necks. All sorts of gods are there. Millions and millions of gods have died and gone. And now a few gods remain. And out of which God is true, I have no way to know. That is up to you. Thank you.